So good evening, Tewksbury. It is 5:11 PM on Wednesday, August 18th, and I'd like to call this special meeting of the Tewksbury Board of Health to order. We have just one agenda item tonight, and we actually have an audience for a change tonight. So we thank you for coming out to listen to us. And since the internet is back at Town Hall, this is being live streamed on YouTube, on the local town channel, and then, like all the other meetings, a recording will be uploaded for viewing pleasure by tomorrow on YouTube. So we're here tonight because we, as the Board of Health, like to provide input to the school committee for their meeting tonight in terms of what the Board of Health feels our recommendation should be to the school committee in terms of whether students and faculty and staff should be required to wear masks or not. So that'll be the first thing that we talk about. And then we're going to talk more about a framework for how we plan to continue to stay on top of what's happening in terms of trends in town. So with that, I think I'd first like to go through and just have members state what their preferences, personal opinions are in terms of whether masks should or should not be worn in school. So, Mr. Rue?
I think that the decision for children to wear masks is solely on the parents. I don't think that the community has a, or as an elected official, I think that we have a responsibility to reflect what our positions are in terms of the kids wearing masks. I think they cause more harm than they're going to help, and I'm a big fan of parenting.
Thank you, sir.
Let me see if I can get, Dr. Bichetti, are you able to hear us?
I am able to hear you, yeah.
Okay, we can hear you as well. So would you like to give your opening remarks on your personal opinion about wearing a face mask at school?
My input is the same as Member Rue's. I believe that with all the information and disinformation going on, and I deal with healthcare every day, and I do not minimize one bit the issues with COVID-19. But my feelings are that during the present times, with all the empirical data that's out there that appears to be, in my opinion, adequate, I believe parents should be the ultimate arbitrator and individuals themselves. But as far as young children going to school, I believe as an elected board member from the town of Tewksbury represents people that endorsed and voted for myself, I believe that parents should be the ultimate ones to decide what they feel is going to be in the best interest and the safest interest of their children based on all the immediate information they have available, their family histories, their past medical histories from family members, and their current health status right now. So I agree with Mr. Rue. I believe that parents should have the ultimate decision whether or not to have their children wear masks, because currently all the data indicates that young children is more detrimental than helpful. I think that's based my position. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bichetti. Mr. Scarano?
Since June 29th of this year, there have been no mandate of masks. So the parents have been determining what's in the best health interests of their children. I haven't seen anything presently in front of me that would change my opinion that the parents, as of June 29th, have been in charge of their children's health, and they can choose to put a mask on their child or not put a mask on their child, because no one knows their children's health like the parent. and defaulting to another group that may not have the same level of expertise in an individual's health would seem to group them and make a group decision. I can't see that being the proper perspective at this point. So my opinion is that the parents should be in control of whether or not the children are required to wear masks.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Rulis?
I will disagree with the other board members on this. From what I am seeing from vulnerable populations and specifically with very young children, it is spreading incredibly rapidly right now, and they are bringing it into the homes, and the infection is worse than we have seen before. I understand that it's hard to get children to wear masks. I know it's uncomfortable for them. However, I think that if people are choosing to not vaccinate, which is fine, in the school, I feel that it's best that the children are wearing masks, choose to halt the spread, because I think that unless you're prepared to possibly go back to full remote by maybe late fall, that's what I see coming. I think it's best to wear masks. Yes.
Tell one eternity
Thank you, Mr. Rulis.
forever.
Okay, and I will also speak my piece. I, too, side with Mr. Rulis that I share a differing opinion than three of my other esteemed board members. My concern is when I do look at the numbers, and we'll cover more about this shortly, but the numbers that we're going to be looking at tonight and referencing in the future will be numbers that are both available on the town website for everyone to see, as well as from the state website. So we're going to make sure that we're very transparent in the numbers that we're looking at, so everyone is aware of when we're talking about case counts and so on, everyone's seeing the same information. My concern is that while so far Massachusetts has seen a slower increase in case counts recently, the numbers are still starting to increase as people are coming back from summer vacations and traveling to places that are definitely hot spots and potentially bring home unwanted or unknown souvenirs with them. And my personal feeling is that given just where the numbers are slightly trending now, that it behooves us to act on the side of caution and to look at the wearing of masks for like a 30-day period, just so that we get past this and know that the numbers, and we have a chance to see where the numbers are going, that the numbers don't indicate that there is a bigger problem, because there are issues going on in towns around us, as Mr. Rulis is referring to, and I think it's just best to opt on the side of caution. Unfortunately, this whole debate has come so highly politicized, and both sides will have their experts that they can point to justify what that side's recommendation is, and it's really tough for us to try to stay non-political and to put forth what we think is the best recommendation. So my goal tonight and moving forward is that we as a board are going to be trying to work just on factual information and the same information that you folks are able to see as well. And I hope that our goal is that we can provide the correct information to whether it's residents or committee members or departments or the town of Tewksbury in general that can help them make the best informed decisions, and we'll be providing recommendations to that. But for right now, I have to look on the side of public health, and that's the main role of the Board of Health, is to protect the public health of residents. And I look at it as you cannot get sicker from wearing a mask,
Yes, you can.
and you are going to be, there's no public comment at this.
We know it's difficult to maintain decorum because this is a debatable issue. But we're up here just to let you know where we stand, and then we're going to discuss why and how we got there a little bit. So, but give the chairman the benefit of the doubt.
And let me just clarify that remark by saying, as it relates to COVID, not about other things that people may have been seeing, but about COVID itself. So that is my opinion. So I know first and foremost, I need to get a vote taken so I can communicate to the town manager so he can communicate our vote or finding to the school committee and to the superintendent before they meet tonight. So I would entertain if a member has a motion they want to put forward.
Make a motion that we poll the Board of Health for their vote as to whether or not school children should start school with a mask, and a nay vote would be no mask.
What grades are we talking about here, Bob? Are we talking about school generically, or are we talking about grades?
I don't think there's a distinction being made about the age of children regarding wearing a mask. I don't think there's a distinction being made. Maybe we can just hold on to the motion for 1 second.
Sure.
Because remember, when you get on a bus or public transportation, you're wearing a mask. So remember, children from pre-K, whatever, right up until high school, if you're traveling on public transportation or private transportation for the public, you're wearing a mask. That's a federal regulation right now. So there's no changes. The question is, are you getting off of the bus and having a choice, whether that's to the parents or older children, to wear the mask? That's what we're polling the board for, just so with that caveat, okay? If you have something to add to that, I don't want anyone not to add to that or detract from that before we formalize the motion.
So I think to answer your question, the school committee had sort of informally asked us for what our recommendation would be, but there was not a specific in terms of grade level. So just in general, what is our overall recommendation?
And going back to the fact that if you're on a bus, you have a mask on.
5 minutes on the bus and 6 hours at school.
So Dr. Machete, did you hear all that conversation?
I did.
Okay, just want to make sure you're in the loop of things. I'm not sure how the audio is with this setup here in the meeting room.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'm going to make the motion again that we poll the Board of Health individual members for their preference on whether children start the school year with or without a mask. A nay vote would be without a mask.
Okay. Mr. Rue, how do you vote?
Nay.
Okay. Dr. Machete?
I just want to repeat it. Nay means
No mask.
have the parents make the decisions.
Correct.
Correct. I'm nay.
Okay, so Dr. Machete votes nay. Mr. Rules?
Yay.
Mr. Scarano?
Nay.
And chair votes yea as well. So the proposed motion, I guess, fails because it did not garner enough votes to pass it. So the vote of 3-2 against having kids wear masks is what the Board of Health has voted.
move that we transmit our vote directly to, I believe this is being recorded through the town manager's office?
Yep.
That we transmit our vote to the town manager.
So while I'm doing that, so we don't put people on pause, do you want to talk about the other thing that we had been going over, what we're going to do moving forward?
Sure. And you can understand that we all have personal considerations, just like you do. We have personal values that we hold dear and near. And we also, as the Board of Health, have to consider what our vote does. And our vote tonight to recommend doesn't mean that that won't change, because the facts can change. Right now, we're looking at the facts as our public health director has provided to the website the number of cases that are out there, and the increase just over a week is significant. It's broken down on the website.
We track deaths.
Yeah, we're a year and a half into it, we have the data that they're at numbers.
Okay, so we
Cases,
can't
yeah.
have this debate back and forth.
Well, we have to make sure that we're considering everything, because it doesn't sound like we are when we just look at cases.
Well, since I've actually spoken 11 words and you've come to the table with we haven't considered everything, I don't think you've heard everything.
Hear us out.
In all due respect.
Hear us out.
In all due respect.
It's my first time.
It's okay, it's easy, yeah, listen to me.
You should run for
I have children too. We probably all have children, and we're all concerned. And as a parent, as an individual, what we intend to do as a board is to keep our thumb on the situation. And generally, when we make a determination, we make it based on findings of fact. We actually find fact based on the statistics, based on the trends, based on the analysis. And I can tell you that I think that the Board of Health has considered those facts in making their recommendation to the school committee. But we're going to continue to do that. And we will continue to do that on a week-by-week basis. Because as our chairman has said, we are here for the health of this community. And we have to keep an eye on the trends. And just because this starts as no mask doesn't mean it ends up that way. And we aren't the final say, as you've seen before May 29th. We're not the final say. We're the say right now until something different happens. And you may consider that something different political. You may consider it unwarranted. You may consider it based on no facts. But you can best assure that each week we will look at the facts. We will make findings on those facts. We will consider the trends, ramifications, and other information in front of us, and we will continue to make recommendations as we go forward, because that's our job. So with that, we're looking at creating a structure to do this, to come up with, even if we have to have a special meeting like this on a weekly basis. We're hoping that isn't the case, but it may very well be warranted that we have to have this type of meeting on a weekly basis. And on each occasion, we will be garnering information, looking at information, weighing information, and we'll be trying to weigh it from all sources, independent, dependent, because that's what we have these days, a mishmash of information. So we're going to have to wade through it. So as it relates to that structure, we'll be looking at the case rate every week. We'll be looking at the increase or decrease as the case may be. And remember that we have transportation, and we have public transportation, but we also have private transportation. People are driving their kids to school in carpools. And I think my member said it today to me best. I don't know where you were today. That's a legitimate concern. I don't know where you were today. Well, when you throw a bunch of kids in a carpool, you don't know where they were either. So think about how the parents' responsibility, and that's where I'm coming. It's the parents' first job to make sure their kids are safe, their vehicle is safe, their mode of transportation is safe, because not everyone is relying on public transportation or private transportation to a public place.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
So-
You lean toward the parent.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that all the board members do that, but right now, we know who has primary responsibility. We know. And the failure or success will be based on primary responsibility. It will be. It always is. Personal responsibility weighs heavily in every decision.
Bob, can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
This is a fluid situation that we have to monitor. We were meeting on a weekly basis when this thing first popped up over a year ago, and it was I had a problem with Raymond and us meeting every week because it seemed like nobody was listening to us from a bottom-up perspective, that the edicts were coming top-down. We're at the level now, we're at the bottom-up. We want people to listen to us locally, how it's affecting the town of Tewksbury. This isn't Springfield, Massachusetts, this isn't Lynn, this isn't Lawrence, this is Tewksbury. We're different. We're here to expose the difference and to make sure we keep control of this. I'm a big fan of parents. I would never contradict a parent's decision with their child unless it was abusive. And I think wearing masks is an abusive situation at this point in time. Thank you.
So going back to the protocol that we're talking about, we're going to be garnering information, and generally that comes through our health director. And that's going to come to us probably bi-weekly so that we can keep a very close tab on what's going on and trends happening in the community, because we want to protect your children too. Okay, we know that your primary role is to do the same thing. So we're going to be looking at this reporting. We're also going to be monitoring the reporting and having meetings as is required. There is no doubt that we'll be meeting as required, based on trends, based on information, and we'll be reevaluating based on that information. That's the role of the Board of Health. We look at these facts, we look at the data, we look at the risk, and we evaluate and we make a recommendation, sometimes in the form of a motion, sometimes in the form of an order, okay? We're not the only ones out there doing this type of risk assessment. The state's doing it as well, okay? So while this is under our control and the local Board of Health control, we're making this recommendation to the school committee, and we'll see where it goes. But you can understand that our role is structured, and we'll be doing it the same way, and we'll be monitoring, we'll be looking at the data, we'll be making reevaluations, and if necessary, recommendations, okay?
If I can just quickly add to that?
Yeah.
And we'll be doing this as long as we still have the ability to make these determinations locally, because once it's been taken to the state level, then we lose our ability to,
I would hope that our representatives pay attention to what we're talking about in these meetings, because I wasn't under the assumption that they were doing it at all when we were meeting on a weekly basis a year and a half ago, which is one of the reasons why I decided to back out and just listen, because nobody was listening to us. So I'm hoping that the representation that we have at the state level will come through this town. Another way, I want it to go bottom up. I don't want the top down. We're going to stay local, try to influence what their decisions are at a state base, at a state level, and hopefully somebody will pay attention to what we're doing here.
go ahead, Dr. Bichetti.
Sorry, Tony.
Something from the road right now, please. Can you hear me?
Yep, just fine.
Oh, yeah. sorry. Yes, to the town of Tewksbury people that are listening and the people that are in the meeting. We are all interested in the public health, the best public health of our community, whether the votes are yay or nay. So I just want everyone to realize that that is our primary goal, public health. So regardless of whichever way board members have taken a stand, public health of our community that we cherish and raise our families in is of utmost importance to all of us. I just wanted that to be recognized for regardless of the standing board members have taken, because we always have had the best interest of public health
Thank you, Dr.
in
Bichetti.
our guidance. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation would be that we meet here, unless necessary, reconvene here in 14 days to review the new data that will be supplied to us. And if we see something that requires a meeting within 7 days or earlier, that we'll post it and we'll have that special meeting. But right now, I'd like to set the agenda for 14 days to reconvene unless there's reason to call a special meeting earlier.
Okay, just two things.
Discussion on that?
Two things I'd like to point out. When we were talking about the state and the data, I believe you said the data from the state comes out on Fridays. So in theory, then, Fridays would be the day that we'd be able to at least get the new data. And then in terms of when we meet, given the importance of trying to do this and make it flexible for board members, that when it's not on one of our routinely scheduled meetings when we're in this room, that we can at least conduct the meeting if we need to virtually, so that we can still get together, we can review the data, but then we're also going to make sure that the data that we're reviewing is publicly accessible, so that we're trying to be as transparent as we can in this whole process.
And I think our director can assure the public that the data will be placed on the website in a timely manner when it comes out on Friday, so that it's available for the weekend, so that you too as parents can assess, because that's what's happening here. There's a table of board members up here assessing, and there's parents assessing. And your opinions will change too if the data changes, or you'll at least consider that. So with that, if we have a Friday, let's call it information release, and we have the ability to entertain that information over a weekend, and it was concerning, then we would call a meeting earlier than the 14 days. If there doesn't appear to be anything that requires immediacy on behalf of the health of the community, then I think we'll be sticking with the 14 days, and we'll have a date certain that we're actually going to review the data. And what's your feeling on the afterwards? Will the board issue a report? Will the board issue a status based on the information that was garnered, so that everyone isn't hanging out there wondering what the Board of Health is going to do? So my only point would be that during the interim, if there's not going to be a meeting, there may be a status report.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out what that is as we start the process, because we're sort of inventing things as we go, and we just need to make sure we pick the right thing. And I guess I look at timing of this is that when we look for a day, I think trying to do this on a Friday is going to be preferable, because if trends mean that something needs to be changed, we'd rather know it gets changed sooner than later, which would mean if we meet on Monday, then, and again, I think our intention is that what we come up with is not going to necessarily be something that is implemented by whatever committee or department needs to be. It's going to be our recommendations, and that committee is still going to have to review that, but we're also going to put them on awareness that we'll be providing them those updates so that if something needs to be addressed by that respective board, they'll have that update.
Seems reasonable.
So I think if we just look at scheduling the first one for 2 Fridays from now, and then after we're done board members, and just let the director know, is there a certain time that would not work? And I don't know if the state routinely issues data in the morning or in the afternoon, close the day, or,
I believe it's in the morning.
okay,
I run the numbers for the town in the morning too,
okay.
through the state system.
It's usually out by 1 o'clock, 2, sometimes the latest.
Yeah, so I think after the meeting, we can just let Shannon or Director Sullivan know what times would work for us in 2 Fridays from now, and then we'll just set that one in place, and then based on that, we'll see what do we need to do for adjusting time or and
And
frequency.
understand the reason that we're picking this 14 days is because we have a posting requirement. We have to post this meeting, and if we're picking the date in advance, it can be easily posted. Any special meeting requires a different posting, and that's what we're discussing here, is making sure that everyone is aware that there's going to be a meeting. We're setting one, and a different post would be required to do a shorter time period.
And then I'll just need to confer with town council for what the appropriate way we have for communicating the findings, absent of having to do the meeting minutes, which then we have to approve because we can't post draft meeting minutes. So I'm going to work with town council to find out what is the vehicle that we can use to get whatever we come up with for recommendations available as soon as possible.
And we may be doing a structured type setting where we're filling in the blanks, folks, okay? Because it takes a lot of work to make findings of fact, draft them, have the director draft them, have the board come back and review them. That takes a lot of time. So when the chairman's talking about town council, we're seeking his input on the easiest way to let the community know in a straightforward format without having to go through this arduous process. And we're asking him to opine on that, okay?
Thank you. It helps having a lawyer as a board member.
I know there's folks with their hands up.
Yeah, and we are,
Before we could even address that, I'm going to make this recommendation. If you have a specific question, put it in writing, submit it to the board. That way we can consider it, we can put it, it's in the record, and if we respond, it's also in the record, okay? Because we can't have a back and forth narrative.
How to do that?
Pardon me?
Can you tell us how to do that? I wouldn't even know how.
I think we're gonna put that out there so that if you have to ask a question, it's either gonna go through the director or it's gonna be in writing, it'll filter through the director and then get to the board.
There's no email.
Because I didn't see
It's
any
right
of
through
your
the
email
town-
address.
It's right through the
website.
portal. It's right through the portal.
There's no email.
You shouldn't have a problem with that. If
It's
you
on
have
the,
a
it's on the
problem
town website.
Their email addresses are on the town?
No, we do
Send it
not
to the
have
health
town,
department and I will get it to the board members.
yeah,
So we can't email you directly?
No.
right, we do not have town email address. I think just the selectmen and the school committee do. We do not.
And understand that filter is the way this has to happen because it becomes a public record, and that's the way it's going to be documented, right? So if there's one avenue, that avenue will be taken off, and if there's something that really needs attention, the health director can bring it to the right person's attention. Because it may not be us, maybe some other board with jurisdiction. So understand that, but thank you. That's why we just can't have a narrative back and forth. All right?
Anything else you want to add to that?
Other than that, we're trying to create this structure to make it as seamless as possible to get the information to you. and you'll understand how we're filtering it and how we're making our decision going forward. And it will have nothing to do with what's going on out there. It'll have to do, as Mr. Roos said, with the town of Tewksbury. That's the concern here. What other towns are doing and what other towns, it may be relevant to other folks because they have relatives in that town, they have friends, they have children. Children are playing children in sports. You may have one town that says this and another town that says that, okay? Somewhere in the middle, there's gonna be a discussion about that, okay? Each one of these small towns is their own autonomous zone. I suspect these meetings are going on all over the country tonight, shortly before classes start. There's going to be a dearth of information and opinions. And, you know, some are going to be clapped, some are going to be booed, okay? But our job, think of it, is straightforward facts, trends, look at the data, make recommendations based on those. That way, everyone can see what we're making our decisions on, okay? That's all I have.
Okay, I think what we'll do in the couple of minutes remaining is just, let's have a chance for board members to give closing remarks. So, Dr. Shetty, I'll let you do the first.
Can you hear me okay? I'm not sure if it's in a bad area right now, but
No, we can hear you.
my closing, okay, great, thank you. My closing remarks are that we have the best interest of our community, Tewksbury, at heart. Public health, family health, just all the best welfare for our community. And as Mr. Scarano said, there's a variety of different ways different communities may be doing things. Everything's based on what we feel the people of Tewksbury that had elected us, we feel what's going to be in the best interest of Tewksbury's unique situation. And my opinion is based on all the conflicting data that's out there, all the empirical evidence that we see on a daily basis, all the varieties of COVID and whatnot. My opinion is that the individual parents and individuals themselves, based on all this information, it's subject to change, as Mr. Scarano said, but I feel at this stage of the game, where we've come from, where we've ended up with now, and what possibly may change, I feel that the best interests of our children are going to be served by parents taking all the information they know and deciding what they feel is the safest route for them to take care of their children. And I will end on that note.
Thank you, Dr. Bichetti. Mr. Rue?
As I said earlier, I think there's a responsibility for elected people in this town to come up with where their position is on this and for what reason that position exists. We're not an appointed board, nor will we be an appointed board. We're an elected board, and you people elect us. If you're not happy with what we do here, you're free to run, and you're free to participate on the board. The way I look at this whole matter, I look at it in a bigger picture, is that people are putting a lot of weight on the CDC's opinion of what they think is right and wrong generically for the kids in this country. The CDC is a politically appointed board, and they have flip-flopped and flop-flipped since the day for quite some time now, and I'm not going to put any points on any government administration, but of recent, I'm very disappointed in the direction or non-direction of the board. My opinion is, if the government was truly interested in this problem, in the spread of this problem in this country, they would close the borders and, and properly vet the people that are coming in here that seem to be a high rate of infection, and I haven't seen that yet, and I don't see any indication that that's going to happen soon. That being said, I don't think it's being looked at as a big deal. This new variant isn't a big deal. It doesn't seem to be affecting the kids. The numbers I'm looking at, hardly at all. And when you look at rates like 0.0008 COVID deaths over last year for kids under the age of 18, the flu had 438. I'm just concerned that we're doing a lot for no good reason. Thank you.
Everybody left while you were talking,
Yeah, good.
Charlie.
Well,
Scared them
I got them
away.
out of here for you.
Mr. Rose?
I do agree with my colleagues that, yes, the parents need to be the ones that are taking responsibility. However, everyone's idea of what that means is completely different. Some parents think it's, we're all free and we can go wherever we want, we can do whatever we want, we can send our kids here and there, and okay. And other parents feel that maybe you should have a smaller bubble, if you will, of friends that you spend your time with. It runs the gamut. That is something that is constantly going to be argued between people. I disagree with the fact that it is not affecting the children, this new variant, because I'm seeing it. It is absolutely affecting children. Is it killing children? No, not as common, but they are bringing it into the homes and it is harming the parents. That is the bigger concern. And it's predominantly people in the age group between 30 and 45. These are the people that have the young kids. So my thoughts on wearing the mask, I do not feel wearing a mask is considered abuse. I think that it's a safety precaution. It's temporary. You can take it off when you leave school. You can do what you want when you are in your own home or whatever you choose to do. But in the school, I think that because of so many people being in one room with maybe not so great ventilation, that it is a best practice for now until we see numbers change. Those are my thoughts on it. I know a lot of people disagree with that, and that's okay. But that is my opinion on the situation. I also just, I have not, and I could be wrong, I'm sure you'll tell me, but I have not seen or heard too many school-age kids complaining so much about the mask, at least with the girls. They seem to be making it part of their outfit. I don't know. I'm sure there's some that don't feel that way. But they what?
There are a lot of complaints.
They don't like wearing it?
Affecting them, they can't hear, they can't read someone's lips, they don't understand what the teacher's saying, they can't pick up social cues, sorry.
And we will have that as one of our considerations, okay? Remember that as this comes along, this information is coming at us. It's coming from parents, it's coming from teachers, it's all going to be considered, because if that's a detriment to a child, it'll be considered. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No,
They're bringing back the Judds masks, they're changing their fashion statements.
They're
So
changing
that's
their
probably
fashion
easier.
statements?
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
no, I lost my train of thought now. I started thinking about like tie-dye masks and stuff.
Well, you left off before the debate started that it was part of an outfit.
It was part
There
of an
was
outfit.
some outrage over
It
that.
just seems
so.
to me like it's more the adults that are having the issue than it is the children. And the children are going to bounce off of, if you will, how the parents are acting or reacting towards certain things. It's just, again, it's just my observation of what I'm seeing around me. So I'm saying, well, okay, if the parents maybe are maybe more, okay, well, maybe this is the way we're going to have to do this, the kids might be more okay with it. I don't know. I'm speculating. I can't speak for all kids or all parents. But I recognize that nobody likes the situation. I don't like it. I wear an N95 mask for 10, 12 hours a day, and my skin hates me. And, you know, it's just the way it has to be right now. And I hope that it changes sooner than later. And with the whole question about wearing the masks in the schools, this is part of the process of how can we make this change sooner than later? How can we put an end to this? It's not a punishment, it's not, you know, a control, it's certainly, at least not for me, it's not a political statement. It's, you know, this is the health of the general public, this is the health of the people in our town, and I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about myself and all of you. I don't even know you, and I feel like I know you now. I'm worried about this guy. He looks like he needs a sandwich.
I disagree with you, but I'm fine.
It's okay. See, we're still friends. Anyway, those are my closing remarks. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
My
Wolf.
closing remarks go right back to my opening remarks. Personal responsibility, personal accountability, personal participation. Because of what's going on, you need to have a higher threshold of all of those things. Your kids need you even more. They don't understand this any more than a lot of other people. They need explanations. They need understanding. Their personal responsibility, their personal accountability is on the line as well as the parents. But you're the first line of defense. Even if you're not wearing a mask, even if you don't have a vaccination, you would be diligent in making sure your children are protected from others, just like if it was a wolf. It's no different. You're out there, you have to be cognizant. I think that personal responsibility of parents is what can end this pandemic. Okay? Even though there's vaccines, even though there's masks, yes, it always comes back to personal accountability. Because if there's no personal accountability, it goes to default. Someone else will take that responsibility from you. And you folks seem like that you're very diligent, and I'll end with that.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments, and I'll make my final comments. First, I would like to offer whatever assurances I can, as at least the chair of this board, that we are going to be looking at just the state data, things that are not from, we pull off the internet, that we're going to make sure that we're looking at publicly available data that's, to me, of guaranteed composition, because there's a lot of numbers that people can pick out there out of the air from both sides to support arguments, and I want to make sure we don't even go down that path, because we need to provide the fact information to help you also make an informed decision. But one of our other roles of moving forward is that we also want to share what suggestions we have to ensure that people stay as healthy as possible. Just like when flu season comes, I mean, we all dropped our guard when we get flu shots. We didn't worry about washing hands, or after you blew your nose, what you did with your hands and what you did with everything, and when you sneeze, not sneezing the crooked barrel. So there are things that we stopped doing that we sort of came back into. So again, that's all based on what happens in the family. And that's not, there's no state regulation about you have to sneeze into the crooked barrel, but that's just something that parenting skills you learn. You just try to make sure your kids do the right things. And I agree with everyone here that majority of this really lies with the parents. The parents need to step up if they're not doing so already, and make sure that they're practicing good hygiene habits and instill that on their kids. And there are a lot of folks that are doing that already. It's just we need to have a higher compliance rate than we seem to have right now. So instead of going back to basics. Because if we're doing that all along, we would not even be here before you tonight. And you'd not be going down the street to the school committee next to voice your opinions about what they're going to decide. So how do we collectively get out of this mess? We go back to basics. So we're here to support you. And to the people who are offering comments, we're also trying to make sure that we don't make our decisions in a vacuum. My kid's no longer in public school, they're in college now, and we need to have input from folks. We're not going to be doing at the meetings, but rather send your comments to the director, and we will be reviewing those. And if something warrants coming to the board level, the director will certainly let us know. So please keep the comments coming in, and don't spam her to death, but just please send in helpful comments, because the more facts that we can get about what is actually impacting folks here will help us render better decisions.
Mr. Chairman, for those of us that are going to the school committee meeting right now, has the school committee chairman been notified of the results of the vote from the Board of Health? So they can share that at the school committee meeting? We talked with Keith and
Yeah, so Mr. Wentworth, I did text the town manager what the result was, and he was going to share that with Keith as well as the superintendent as soon as he received that text.
great, thanks.
That's why I took the second to make sure they got that.
No, I appreciate that. So I just wanted to know, as we go there and hear them talking, we want to know that they've been notified of that information.
If technology worked as it should not catch them by surprise. And I'm in IT, so I can say it with a chuckle of,
I think it does, and I appreciate the members taking this up today versus tomorrow, so that the school committee has that information, so thank you for that.
you're welcome. Okay. You're going to make the motion twice in a week, so, Mr. Rue?
Kind of excited about this, Ray. I'd like to make a motion that we close tonight's meeting.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, so the motion's been put forth and second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
Aye.
good. Dr. Machete votes aye as well. So it is 6:03 PM. Good night, Tewksbury, and good luck in making your way down to the high school.